I'm Loui, and I am in Johnson Service Corps 2015 and 2016. I hugged the worn steering wheel of my truck, and I began to pray. I felt embarrassed at first. I had not earnestly prayed for at least a decade, and I also felt like an imposter in religious territory. As someone who had internally discarded Christianity at around 11 years old, it felt inauthentic to pray. But on that highway a year ago, I ran out of words and explanations with which to grasp my circumstances. I found myself hurting for money, facing medical and legal battles, losing my friends, distant from family, and working a bad job. That day, my drive took me an hour back from Ohio from visiting a dying romantic relationship. When all my raging, despairing, and planning dried up, I slumped over the steering wheel and, haltingly at first, I prayed. My 11-year-old self rejected religion largely because for me at that time, the reality of God took utmost precedence. I needed to know in some concrete way whether or not God existed, because at the time I was trying to parse out what stories from childhood still held water. God, so I had absorbed, was human-like in that he influenced events on earth and held a set of personal viewpoints. Suspiciously, I saw humans proclaiming the biases of God that aligned with their own views and in the process contradicting each other. On the other hand, I viewed God as transcendental in the sense that he could not be observed or proven in a scientific manner. Even the stories of the Bible felt deeply detached from reality for me. For example, I approached the ancient Israelites in the same way that I digested information from an advertisement. Maybe those stories were true, again, in a literal sense, but they probably contained falsehoods and weren't worth the thought anyway. These influences combined toward my determination that God held a place in my life. But to say that I identified as an atheist would not have told the whole story. I called myself agnostic because I believed that I could neither prove nor disprove God, as if proving God's existence was the primary and only condition of God mattering. I forced myself into ambivalence. But, like most breakups, this separation from God came with a lot of pain. At some point, I no longer grieved the possibility of God not existing because, like many of my other feelings at the time, I had decided that being strong, secure, and factually correct took precedence over having emotion. Pushing away a sense of the divine added a chapter to a lifelong sense of profound abandonment, a grief over lost love. I had felt severed from God all along. So what I really feared, more than discovering God to be false, was holding a set of beliefs that other people could logically disprove. I was scared of being wrong. Strength became such a high value for me because I did not believe in any support outside of myself. I felt enormously embarrassed whenever someone revealed my opinions as incorrect, particularly since knowledge served as my suit of armor. This statement alone shows that I did indeed have feelings, in this case a sense of embarrassment and shame, so it's a wonder that I did not accept myself as an emotive being earlier in life. But instead, I poured myself into art. Through it, I could express emotion as if through code, and I could access spiritual transcendence without even touching the subject of religion. The great pastimes of my life, art, reading, biking, allowed me the safety of solitude. Within them, I could suffer in my sense of abandonment without the risk of actually reaching out for relief. Although art can absolutely rely on community, social art, art movements comes to mind, for me it functioned as an escape and lonely release. When I graduated with an art degree, I resisted pursuing a Master of Fine Arts because of what art represented in my personal and spiritual journey. Through art, I told my deeply personal stories, but only after I had emotionally distanced myself from them to the point that these acts of openness amounted to vulnerability in name only. I still relied on the strength of my independence, which I bolstered through appearing as physically, emotionally, and intellectually high-functioning as possible. In this case, please understand high-functioning to mean seemingly beyond reproach and disconnected from the need for others. As a friend pointed out, art held enormous importance for me, but it served its function in a specified time period of my personal journey. It aligned with a time in my life when I took full credit for my own thoughts and creations, and when I valued independence above all else. In contrast to how I relate to art, I find religion interesting in that it cannot exist without community. Although my personal set of beliefs and practices may differ from another person's, I would say that we all hold different spiritualities, but not necessarily different religions. To me, religion requires a group of people to exist as such. As another friend taught me, this has the benefit of helping to prevent the creation of God in one's own image. If my religion only includes myself, it becomes too easy for me to craft a conception of God only off my biases. But it says something that my recognition of religion as a collective and art as a self came only through conversations with two friends. My personal growth is so dependent on the wisdom of other people. Not only can intelligence no longer serve as a suit of armor for me, I cannot even claim full responsibility for it. Most of what I claim to know came from somebody else. And it was through the thoughts of others that I reformed my opinion on belief. To believe in something spiritual, transcendental, and beyond myself has become a way for me to grow internally. For example, I approach my search for vocation with far less anxiety because I believe that my vocational and spiritual journeys inform each other. As I grow spiritually, I learn to feel, trust, and follow the momentum of my life. When I try to step in as a mediator and counselor for other people, a compulsion I'm endlessly guilty of, I'm learning how to release control over their lives through that process. I choose to believe in God, and I choose to put faith in the whole community of human beings around me. I choose to trust that when I can't be everything for another person, God will be there for that person and can bring other people to their lives that will help in ways that I cannot. Belief serves a clear function in my life to which literal reality does not apply. In meetings, I spend more time listening to what others say because I know that if something needs to be brought to the group, God finds a way of bringing those words to somebody there. That person need not be me all the time, and I found that the vast majority of the time when I release dominance in a conversation, other people end up saying exactly what I need to say, often more gracefully than I would have said it. Whether or not this belief is real matters little to its purpose. Instead of taking faith so literally, I find that it's good to listen to the things one can't hear. Claude Debussy once asked, "How much has to be explored and discarded before reaching the naked flesh of feeling?" For me, the time and suffering it took to reach this place needed to happen. When approaching God, there was no way for me to accept that relationship if I felt forced into it in any way. I could never have reconsidered my beliefs if I felt obligated to. Maybe that's the intensely independent part of myself that still hasn't died, but I think that exercising choice says a lot about love. Once again, through the wisdom of a friend, I was told that love has to be a choice. That's what makes it what it is. This friend called love a choice in the sense that you have to let someone choose to love you, that it cannot be forced and still called love. This holds true for my relationship to what I call God. I spent so much energy in life seeking love and a transcendence of the mundane, but both have always been there.